I think we're live, so if you can see me, let me know. And I will give just a moment for everyone to arrive. Thank you everyone who's joining today. Thank you, thank you. We'll get started in just a moment. I want to give everybody a minute to show up. Thank you to everyone who's able to join me live today. We have members from all over the world, so the time zones can be a little bit tricky. I am here in Seattle, Pacific Northwest, so yeah, 6 o'clock here. Hope everyone's doing well. It has been a crazy 2020. Things are really shaking up, and I think that's a call for us to dive deeper into spirituality. It's not a time to abandon our spiritual practices or the things that light us up or the things that bring us motivation, inspiration, clarity. We need that more than ever. And I think there's a real opportunity for us to change our lives. Our lives are changing whether we want them to or not. So we need to really think about what direction we want to go in. Um, if you can hear me, can you drop a comment and say hello? I want to make sure everyone's here and this is working. Technology can be a little tricky sometimes. Um, yes, thank you. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and get started? Welcome to the live monthly gathering for the Wayne Dyer Wisdom Community. I set these up because I wanted this to be more personal. I wanted us to be able to talk to one another, and one day hopefully we can see each other. And I'm still open to doing this as a Zoom call, so we can get everybody on video. If that's something that interests you, let me know. I think we need to make sure we have enough people that want to show up for that. It's a little bit easier right now, I think, for everybody just to catch the live video or catch the replay on Facebook. But I want us to be able to talk about what you're interested in. I want us to be able to talk about the teachings from Wayne Dyer and the stories from his life and how we can apply that to what's going on in the world today, right now. So, if there's something that you want to hear more about, if there's something that you want to learn about, you know, let me know. Put it in the comments, and we will definitely keep that in mind for either this gathering or next time. So if you have any questions today, please feel free to pop on at any time. Okay, so my name is Nadia Delacruz. I'm the founder of the Wayne Dyer Wisdom Community. I started this group a few days after Wayne Dyer died in 2015, so we have now been together for 5 years. It has grown a lot, especially in the last year and a half. And I feel so blessed to be here with all of you. I mean, right now, I think we have something like 63,000 members. And to have that many people carrying on his legacy, joining together in the spirit of love, to keep his messages flowing and to support each other, I I can't think of anything better. And thank you for being a part of that. I think one of my favorite things in the group is when somebody will post a question and you get all these people that jump on with the most loving and helpful and supportive responses. I do my best to keep out spam and trolls, and I consider this to be a sacred space. I feel like you're coming into my home, and I expect everyone to act accordingly. So I feel like there's a lot of garbage happening on the internet, but not here. Not here. If you see it, report it and we'll clean it up. So thank you for that. So this year I started a podcast and I started it for you guys. Again, I was looking for ways that, we can talk to each other, we can share stories, and I'm bringing on people from the group who have incredible stories of transformation and inspiration. And I hope that you'll tune in. It's called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. You can go to nadiadelacruz.com for all the details on that, and I'll share the link again. This week I had on Tim Nixon, who was a pastor that found God outside of religion, and he's fantastic. It's actually his birthday today. Happy birthday, Tim. You're probably not going to catch this live because you've got things to do, celebrations to be had, but thank you for coming on. It was a really great conversation, and you can check that out. It's on Spotify, Apple, or just go to my website. So I think I have 13 episodes out there now and more coming. Some really interesting people I'll be talking to soon. Um, I also have some episodes on there about Wayne Dyer's life, so you can learn more about him, what his origin story is, his shift from psychology to spirituality, and just a number of amazing guests. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about Wayne Dyer resources, his books and his videos and his audios, and especially if you're new to Wayne Dyer, how can you learn more about him? What is out there and where to start? I think that's the most common question that I get is, I'm new to Wayne Dyer, what's the first book that I should read? And it's not an easy question to answer. So you'd think there'd be maybe one answer that I have, and I don't, because it depends on where you're at and it depends on what you're interested in. But I will tell you, I always recommend to start with his live lectures. So I discovered Wayne on PBS, and he has 10 PBS specials. You can probably find them on YouTube. If you go to the website for your local PBS station, you may find some of them there as well. I don't know if Hay House sells the DVDs for that, but I have a number of them, and I'm going to share a few with you today. And I think I got some of those on eBay or maybe Amazon Marketplace. So, get creative, do a Google search if there's something that you're looking for, and I bet you can find it. So, where to start if you're new to Wayne Dyer? Again, the PBS specials. So let's look at some of the PBS specials that he has. The Power of Intention. That was a good one. It's interesting because he's kind of wearing a suit in this one. He's usually a little bit more casual. So I had Dan Carroll on the podcast, and it's funny because I think this was the book that his dad introduced him to Wayne with, and he's like, "You got to read this book," and he's like, "I don't know." He thought it was like a Christian book, and he wasn't really that into that, and he's like, "I don't know who this guy is." He ended up touring with Wayne. So yeah, that I think it's still his favorite book, The Power of Intention. So this is a good one. Inspiration, Your Ultimate Calling, another PBS special. That's a good one. Probably one of my favorites is Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. He's not on the cover of this one, is he? He was wearing like a black shirt and black pants, and he's barefoot, and he's walking across this beautiful stage, and it looks like a Japanese garden or something. And he was so aligned, and he was so inspired, and he was so at peace, and he'd gotten to this place in his life where he had softened. And he admittedly struggled with ego. Many of us do. I think he felt like maybe that was his big challenge, is overcoming ego. He knew what to do, but not getting concerned with accolades and achievements and what other people think of you. And he taught us that, I think, because he needed to learn that too. And as he was learning that, he shared that with us. But I saw him in Maui when he was talking about Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. Also, not coincidentally, the name of my podcast. And it's just who he was at that time really inspired me, and it changed my life. And I think if you watch the PBS special, you can see a little bit of that in him there. I can see clearly now it was probably the last PBS special that he did, and he's talking about his memoir of the same name. It's not exactly a memoir. He calls it like a series of quantum moments in his life. And he's connecting the dots from all those quantum moments. And I'm so grateful that he wrote that book. So he had told his kids on his birthday that he was done writing. He didn't have anything to prove. He wasn't going to write any more books. And then the next day he woke up and he started writing this, and he couldn't stop. It just came out of him. And he's putting all his memories into it. Well, not all of them, right? But he's putting the pieces together in a way that demonstrates for us how our lives work, that there is this future pull, that you are being guided, that things happen for a reason. And he was so inspired to share that with us, not to say, wow, look at this amazing life that I had, but to look at the amazing life that you have. Because these things are happening to you as well. They're happening to all of us. And look for those synchronicities. Look for the things that happen at the perfect time, with the perfect person, and lead to things that you could not have imagined for yourself. And, you know, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. And Wayne Dyer wanted to teach us how to do this the easy way, how to trust in source, how to trust in who we are, how to know that we are infinite beings, and that nothing is impossible, and that your thoughts can and will change your world. When you change the way you think about things, the things you look at change. Change the way you look at things, things you look at change. Excuses Be Gone. I think he was working on this book when I saw him in Maui, talking about the Tao. This was, I think, the next one he was doing. And he said, I've taught you what to think. Now I'm going to teach you how to change those patterns. Because sometimes we know, sometimes we know it can be different, sometimes we know it can be better, but we just kind of rehabituate those same 60,000 thoughts every day, that we keep making kind of those same self-destructive choices. So this video and this book, and there's audio as well, are great for changing your patterns, overcoming old ways of doing things, so that you're not stuck in the past anymore. While we're on videos, he was very proud of his movie The Shift. It's a great film. He used to keep these with him and hand them out wherever he would go. He used to send them to people who called in for his radio show. I'm not going to go into detail on this one today, but that one's definitely worth checking out. We talked about last month the most significant day of Wayne Dyer's life, and that was the day that he went to his father's grave in Biloxi, Mississippi, and forgave him. Now, this was the guy who abandoned him and his mother when he was a baby. He never knew his father, and he carried rage for this man. This is his story of, is this it? No, that's not it. It's this one. You guys should see my desk right now. I shared a picture, but it's covered with stuff. My greatest teacher. And Wayne Dyer has somebody else playing him, Michael Gorgon. He's amazing. I just saw him in an episode of Lucifer, actually. I knew I recognized that guy from somewhere. Wayne Dyer has a cameo in this, but this is the story that Hay House put out about going to his father's grave and having that moment of forgiveness. There is a live tour of sacred sites. I remember when he announced this trip, and I don't remember what it cost, like $6,000 or something. I don't know. I mean, they had all these flights, and you're going all over Europe and the Middle East, and it just sounded amazing. And he gave, I think it was 6 talks at these sacred sites. I didn't have $6,000 to go, but I got the DVD when it came out. So the production quality on the video is a little bit rough, but it's totally worth it to check that out. Now, probably my favorite conversation ever in the world by anyone is this one, Co-Creating at Its Best, with Esther Hicks and Wayne Dyer, and she's channeling Abraham, and he got to ask her questions about his life, about why he wakes up at 3:13 in the morning. What is that? Um, and I remember him saying that the wisdom from Abraham is one of the most enlightened, on point teachings in the world at this time. And seeing the two of them talk, there's a video, there's also an audio, you can also find it on YouTube, is amazing. And if you don't know about Esther Hicks and Abraham, it's worth looking into. It's a little bit more out there than Wayne, but totally worth it. Okay, that's it for videos. I want to talk about his books. So Wayne wrote more than 40 books in his lifetime. The first book he ever wrote, anybody? Yep. Okay, you didn't say it. But Erroneous Zones. I have this copy of your Erroneous Zones from the 70s. This was published in 1976. I love this. I just recently got this particular copy. And look at this picture of Wayne from the 70s. Oh my gosh. It's kind of hilarious and also awesome at the same time. So Your Erroneous Zones was his first book. And he wrote this in 2 weeks after he forgave his father. So that story, My Greatest Teacher. This happened right after that, and it ended up selling like 100 million copies. That's a lot. So a lot of people know Wayne from this book. He was a professor at St. John's University in New York. He had studied, he had a doctorate in counseling psychology. And so this was kind of the perspective he was coming from. But it's really interesting because what he studied at Wayne State University was about not what's wrong with people, not like traditional psychology. He was studying humanistic psychology, which was about human potential, which was about like what we can do and what we can accomplish and how amazing we can be and what does a really healthy person look like, instead of just kind of like labeling psychosis and illness. He came at it from the other side, and he had some great teachers from that, including Abraham Maslow. Well, along the way, he also had a counseling practice, and he worked as a guidance counselor for a while. So in his private practice, people would come to him, and I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about one of the themes in Wayne Dyer's teachings, with your erroneous zones, with pulling your own strings, with excuses be gone, which was much later. He wanted people to stop feeling sorry for themselves and stop falling into this victim mentality and take charge of how they feel and take charge of their lives. He wanted to empower people to overcome this idea that, oh, my life is so hard, and no, you don't understand because of my childhood and this would happen to me. Wayne Dyer didn't have an easy childhood. His father abandoned him. He ended up in an orphanage because his mother didn't have the money to cover it. It's not like he was born with a silver spoon, right? He had his own troubles, but he didn't sit there and feel sorry for himself, right? He drove forward. He envisioned the kind of future that he wanted, and he went for it, and he took huge risks. I mean, he was about to get tenure at the college, and he left to go and try to sell this book on the road. Who does that? He bought out the rest of the copies from the publishing company because they weren't promoting it and it wasn't selling it, and they were going to remainder the books. And so he bought them and he put them in the trunk of his car, and he drove around the country going to bookstores saying, hey, can you carry my book? He'd stop at any radio station that would have him and tell his story. And he saw himself going on the Tonight Show, which he did something like, 37 times or something. He went on a lot. And he went on PBS, and like, this is why we know him. We know him because he risked everything. He risked everything to get the message out there. This could have been the best book ever that nobody read. Because if he didn't do that, if we didn't see him, if we didn't know who he was, we wouldn't read it. It wouldn't reach us. It wouldn't help us. And now I think he's probably one of the biggest figures in spirituality. He's no longer with us, but his works certainly are. So this was a big one. This was in 1976, and it started his career as an author. So he wrote Your Erroneous Zones, Pulling Your Own Strings, The Sky's the Limit. He did Gifts from Icus in 1983, which is really interesting. I've got a copy here because it is his only non-fiction book, Gifts from Icus. Oh, check out this picture on the back. Gifts from Icus, 1983, and I got myself a signed copy. I love it. I think I'm starting a collection. Might be a problem. It's not a problem. It's great. Yes, it's different from his other books, but it's still teaching us. It's still teaching us, just in a story form. And then his first book in spirituality was You'll See It When You Believe It. Okay. So one of my episodes is called of the podcast, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, is called From Psychology to Spirituality. And what's really interesting about that is that his agent, Artie Pine, had lined up a book deal for him. It was going to make a ton of money. He said, we want you to write a book about how to have a great sex life. And then we want you to come up and follow that up with how to make a lot of money. And Wayne was shifting. He was changing. Spirituality was coming into his life. He was getting interested in that. And one of the big reasons is because he had been speaking at unity churches and multi-denominational faith churches around the country. They were asking him to come and talk about the books he already had. And he saw the way that he was impacting people, and he felt so inspired. And these were places that would talk about Lao Tzu and Emerson and Thoreau, like, figures that he really looked up to, as much as they would talk about Jesus. So there was this really open-minded quality that I think resonated for him, and he realized he could be someone who inspired, who didn't just teach, but who inspired. And he got really excited about seeing himself that way and being that for people, that he dived into learning about spirituality he didn't already know. He'd already done like 5 books, and he wasn't talking about God in any of them. I think the only reference he made was God actualization from Abraham Maslow, and so he dived into it. He started learning about these things, and then he started teaching them. And I love that because he was so fluid. He was so flexible. He was with Marcy at this time, and they were having babies. They had lots of babies, and I think his life was really changing, and he was in a good place. And I have a feeling that she was also a big influence on him, because she just seems like an amazing woman, very spiritual, very connected, very driven, raised these amazing kids. And Wayne must have been on the road a lot, so props to you, Marcy. Okay, so his first book about spirituality was You'll See It When You Believe It. So he turns down that book deal about sex and money and says, no, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to talk about. And it's going to be called You'll See It When You Believe It. And Artie's like, what are you talking about? I don't even understand you right now. No, but there's no market for that. Nobody wants to read books about spirituality and personal transformation. No, not like that. Like, let's do this. I already have this arranged. And he stuck to his guns. And this is the first book of his that I ever read, except my copy wasn't the hardback. My copy looked like this. And I highlighted the life out of it, and I gave it away to somebody, so I didn't have it anymore. So I tracked down another one that looked just like the one that I had, just for nostalgia. But I actually love the hardback copies. So You'll See It When You Believe It was 1989. And it changed my life. If I hadn't read this book, I probably wouldn't be here right now. I probably wouldn't have gone to see him several times. I saw him on PBS, and something drew me in, and it was just like, who is this guy? And I was a teenager. I had otherworldly things to occupy my time. But there was something about that made me believe that we didn't have to suffer, that more was possible. And I love this book. So each chapter in this book, you'll see it when you believe it, is based on 7 one-word concepts. I'm going to read them to you here. Transformation, thought, oneness, abundance, detachment, synchronicity, and forgiveness. It's amazing. And then he went on to write other books. Things like Real Magic. Dr. Terry Gordon was the cardiologist that's on the podcast. Amazing story, really heartfelt. I think this was his introduction to Wayne Dyer. I think this was the first book that he read, and it was transformative to him at a time when it turned out he would need it the most. There's a spiritual solution to every problem. I mean, he was fully immersed into spirituality. This was where he was going, and this was the direction he continued for the rest of his life. We have The Power of Intention, which I showed you the video. There's actually 2 versions of this book. There's the one with the suit, and then I think they call this the gift version, which if you look inside the pages, it's like full color, beautiful illustrations, very different. That's great. I mean, they're all great. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with Wayne Dyer. Inspiration. So this is, he's holding a butterfly, a real butterfly. This is actually, I don't want to tell you the whole story today, but he was on Maui and this butterfly landed on him, and his friend Jack had recently passed away, and Jack was like an expert on monarch butterflies, and so he felt like this was his friend visiting him, and he's like, Jack, Jack, it's you, because this butterfly landed on him and stayed with him like the whole day. It wouldn't leave. So he got his assistant to take some pictures, and they put that together. The benefits of living an inspired life. And if you guys have questions about any of these books, let me know. And then we're going to wrap up with recommendations for what to read first. Okay, this one. Near and dear to my heart. Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. This is the book I carried with me when I went to go see him in Maui. This is what he was talking about. I carried it home with me. He signed it to me. Very sloppy signature, but we love it. In his purple pen. So this is the picture that I have from that event. And I don't know if you can tell, but he's holding that purple pen in his hand. This was 2008. I think it wasn't just the book. It was the energy of who he was at the time, because he had spent a year studying the Tao and just living it every day. And he had quieted and slowed down and softened. If you're interested in the Tao or Tao Te Ching, definitely go with that one. Wishes Fulfilled. And then, of course, which we already talked about, I Can See Clearly Now. And when I talk about Wayne Dyer's origin story, a lot of what I talk about is in this book about his life, about how did he become who he was, what were his influences, and what were some of those things along the way that amounted to the man that we knew him to be. He says, as I look back over my life, it is not a far reach for me to conclude that there is some kind of a plan that is always at work, even if it is largely unknown as it unfolds. It is not a great stretch for me to conclude that this plan is being directed by the same force that keeps the planets aligned, opens the buds of all the flowers, and gives life to all manner of creation here and everywhere else in the universe as well. I now pay much closer attention to what shows up for me, and I'm willing to listen carefully to any inclination I might have and act accordingly, even if it leads me into unknown territory. I urge you to do the same. Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. He also has some children's books. They're big, hardbound. I've got 2 here. Goodbye Bumps he did with his daughter Sage, about her story of healing. I have an episode on that as well called Miraculous Healing on the podcast. And then Incredible You, 10 ways to let your greatness shine through. And my kids have fun with these. It's so cute because they already know who Wayne Dyer is. And I made a painting of him on the anniversary of his death just a few weeks ago. And my kids were like, oh, my daughter, she's 4. And she's like, oh, is that Wayne Dyer? I'm like, yep, that's Wayne Dyer. She already knows. Teach them young, folks. So a couple other things, then we'll get back into recommendations. I think I'm going to talk more about meditations maybe next time. But this one's my favorite. It's called Meditations for Manifesting. I've got a couple copies of this. This one's still in the shrink wrap. It's a japa meditation. He chants an ah in the morning and an om at night. And that's a great one. You can also get it on Audible now. So you don't have to go old school. You can get it digital. Talking about old school, look what I found. I found this in my garage. Manifest Your Destiny. These are the audio tapes, folks. Open this up. Look, real audio tapes, cracked from being in my car for a long time. I forgot that I even had this, but my old car used to have a tape deck in it. And it was great because I would just keep one of these tapes in and oh gosh, it's great for road rage. If you ever listen to Wayne Dyer on the road and you're stuck in traffic and it's like, oh, hey, look at all these people. How nice that we're all together. I wonder where they're going. Or maybe that's just me. But he definitely has a calming influence. He has a couple of card decks out too. I'm a card reader. You can see some of my bags here. This one is Inspiration. That's a neat one. I think I shared some of those pictures before. I think that's enough for the books. So if you're new to Wayne Dyer, let's recap. Where should you start? I think you should start with the Pbs Specials or any of his live lectures. So there's a bunch on Audible that you can get. Make sure you read the descriptions because sometimes it's live lectures, which I think are the best. Sometimes it's, books that he's reading and there's not quite as much energy coming through. There's not quite as much enthusiasm. Still great, but his live lectures just really, really shine. I always look at the length of the recording and I tend to go for the longer ones to figure I get more for my money. Also, those are usually the live ones. So Audible has great ones on there. There's a live lecture for Living the Wisdom of the Tao, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. There's a Wayne Dyer audio collection, which I think has 3 of his older lectures. Those are great too. That's a good place to start. And you can go to YouTube. I mean, YouTube has everything. I feel like a lot of that's ripped off, so I'm a little iffy about some of the YouTube videos, but still his message is getting out, so I think we'll go with it. And then Hay House just recently put out a new unlimited audio app, and they're charging $10 a month or $60 for a year, and they have so much on there that you can listen to, including lots of Wayne Dyer stuff. His lectures, I think there's some meditations on there. They don't have everything, but there is a lot, and I think there's a free trial if you want to check that out. That's a good one. You can buy some of these things at Hay House or Amazon, or Audible or eBay. I still have DVDs. I have like a whole book of CDs from his live lectures, but I'm getting what I can now on digital just because it's easier. I don't have to convert those. So yes, live lectures, start there first. And then for the books, it depends on where you're at. If you're new to spirituality, I would go with You'll See It When You Believe It, because that was his first spiritual book. So it was kind of new for him too. And I think that really introduces a lot of the concepts. And that's a great way to kind of dive in. Get your feet wet with Wayne. If you're really more interested, or you want to start from the beginning, or you're more interested in psychology, I mean, Erroneous Zones. It's a classic. I think it's a different tone than what you might be used to from Wayne if you already know him. because there was kind of this evolution from psychology to spirituality, and he just kind of got deeper into the heart of it until it's just about love, 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 only love. And that was the message that he wanted to share with us. But he really took us on a journey. So if you want to start that journey, you can't go wrong with your Erroneous Zones. If you're interested in the Tao Te Ching, change your thoughts, change your life. Wishes fulfilled. I hear a lot of people recommending this one. And he talks a lot about healing in this book. So if you are in a place in your life where you're interested in healing, where you're needing healing, where people around you are experiencing illness or lack or scarcity, this could be a good one. This could help you realign. This can help you remember what you're capable of. I really think that we create our reality. I really believe, he used to say that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and I have this Om tattoo, and that's what that means to me. That's a reminder that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, and that I think that we don't have a body and a soul. I think that our soul actually generates the body, creates the environment where life's possible. If you're familiar with Anita Morjani, someone that he brought to the stage, and her near-death experience, I mean, her body was riddled with cancer, and she healed completely, and she's been around for a long time since then. If she can heal from that, from literally the brink of death, she was like 80 pounds and her body was riddled with tumors and her organs shut down. She went into a coma. And then she comes back, and like 2 weeks later, she goes home because she's healed so much they can't find the cancer anymore. I mean, if that's possible, you tell me what's not. So this is a good one for healing. I can see clearly now. I probably wouldn't recommend as a first book because it is kind of a memoir and it talks about the themes of his life. But maybe if you've been watching videos of his, or you're familiar with him already, definitely read this one. This one is great. And watch his movie The Shift, because he would want you to. Plugging for Wayne. Watch my movie The Shift. If you're really into spirituality and you're okay with like channeling and metaphysical beings, this one. Wayne Dyer and Esther Hicks, co-creating at its best. This is great. Any form you can get it. I love the video because you get to see them talking, but the audio is, almost as good. And the great thing with audio is that you can listen to it on the go, just like with the podcast. You can listen to it while you're driving, while you're cleaning the house, while you're doing other things. It's nice because you can take it with you with what you're doing. So I hope that was helpful. I feel like my desk is covered in stuff. And there's more that I have, but I think that's enough. So if you have any questions about Wayne Dyer's books, audios, videos, where to find other resources from him, comment on the post in the group, message me. I'm here to help. If there's anything that you want to know more about or what you'd like to talk about next time, I will see you next month. And yeah, take care of yourself. Thank you for being here. You matter. You're important. These are big times. You chose to be here. Think about why that is. There's a lot to learn. You must be very adventurous. All right, everybody. Have a good night, and I will see you next month. Namaste.